Alright folks, let me tell you a story. You see, I always understood that the world is filled with all sorts of people. You got your good guys, your bad guys, and some people who are just plain unlikable. People are like a rainbow, tons of colors, no one's truly just one color, we're all a unique blend. But Heinrich Dundee's? Nah, he ain't got no colors. He's a dark, dark shade of black, spooky black. And no, I ain't talking about his skin tone, he's white. Heinrich is the kind of dude that's toxic, narcissistic, and downright crazy, and he set his sights on ruining my life. So you get the full picture, let me introduce myself. I'm Noble Pounder, 45 years old. Yeah, I've heard all the jokes about my last name, but like I always say when they bust my chops, your mama ain't complaining. Anyway, let's skip the tired jokes and keep going. I'm a pretty tall dude, over 6 feet, and lean, thanks to sticking with my 4-day-a-week workout routine. I gotta stay in shape at this age, you know. I live in beautiful Virginia, and I'm known for being pretty easy on the eyes. Some people even say I'm handsome. I got dark brown hair and always keep a clean shave because let's be honest, I don't like facial hair. People tell me it makes my face look more defined, but I just don't like the feel of it. I got a good job, a decent salary, although it does mean a couple of trips to Richmond every month for those boring HQ meetings. Enough about me though. There's one more important thing. You see, I'm married to Tabitha, my amazing wife. She's 44 and my second wife. We've been together for 6 years. Tabitha's a beautiful blonde with a toned and athletic build, and she came into my life a few years after my first marriage went kaput. Tabitha doesn't have any kids with me, but she has a daughter from her previous marriage, Jacqueline. I've loved her like my own, since she was a little kid. Me, I have 3 kids from my first marriage to Ethelbert, Milka, 20, Jacob, 18, and my youngest, Danny, who's 15 and has Down syndrome. Danny's my little buddy, and he's super close to Jacqueline, who's just 12. We actually have a good relationship with my ex, Ethelbert, because of the kids. Tabitha's been incredibly supportive, and she gets along surprisingly well with Ethelbert, even though they're pretty different. Tabitha was married to a loser named Christian Boudinger. He ran off to Colombia with his mistress over 9 years ago, leaving her all alone. So now that you're up to speed, let me tell you about this Heinrich fella and how he entered my life. It was just a regular day when Tabitha, my wife, walked into the kitchen with a huge smile on her face. She had this grin I knew well, the one that meant she was excited about something. "Who's the happy camper today?" I said, watching Tabitha. She's got a different style than my ex-wife, Ethel. Ethel was always more simple but elegant, while Tabitha leans toward a more glamorous look. She likes to wear form-fitting clothes, accentuating her awesome figure, especially her killer curves. Tabitha loves her yoga pants, especially around the house, and sometimes even out and about, otherwise it's tight jeans or fitted trousers. "Me, you want to know why?" Tabitha said, practically bursting with excitement. I just shook my head, grinning, waiting to hear. "I just got offered to co-author a book, and it's going to be huge." Tabitha's a philosophy and art professor at the local university. They're really big on their staff making a name for themselves. This meant the university would give her a lot of support if the book was a success. I knew it also meant a big fat bonus for Tabitha. Not that we needed it. The boat on the lake was doing fine, and our lakeside house was still brand new. But hey, she liked the feeling of contributing to our comfortable life. I looked at her, trying to take it all in. Okay, but who's the author? The question came out curious, but a bad feeling started to grow in my gut when I saw her hesitate just a little. Then her smile came back, but this time it didn't feel as confident as before. "It's Heinrich Dundas," Tabitha said, her eyes fixed on mine. I felt my stomach clench, fear rising, but I tried to keep my face neutral. "You mean that Heinrich Dundas, the same one I had to deal with before Christian, the guy who almost wrecked my marriage? The same Heinrich Dundas I told you stories about how cruel and selfish he is?" My voice was laced with anger, and my body started to tense up, the anger building in waves. Her smile vanished. She went silent for a moment, like she didn't know what to say. "It's not like that, Noble. He's married, has kids. And besides, we'll be working remotely. He's in California, for God's sake, so don't worry," Tabitha replied, her voice a little defensive, like she was trying to calm my anxieties. I couldn't contain myself anymore. "You're serious? This guy almost ruined my marriage, before Christian ran off with that young chick." You think this time will be different? What's he gonna do next? Who's gonna get hurt this time? I asked, not hiding the frustration in my voice. My eyes felt like they were shooting out angry lasers. Tabitha shrugged, like she'd been thinking about this for a while. The board pushed me to pursue this opportunity. I couldn't say no. You don't think I know what Heinrichs is like, do you? If I'd turned it down, they would have fired me on the spot. They know his name, and they want to use his fame to boost the university's reputation. The anger felt like it was going to explode, but I fought to keep it down. I get it, but could you at least talk to me about it before making the decision? You could have shared it with me, right? I've seen how hard you work with everything at the university. Even though things are more equal now, they're still always focused on their own fame and profit. Tabitha sighed, a touch of sadness flitting across her face. I know, and I'm sorry. It's not that I didn't want to talk to you. It all happened so fast. I didn't have a lot of time to think it through. I stood up, the anxiety and anger still bubbling. He better not come anywhere near you. And if he does something wrong, he'll know what I'll do. You have to be careful. Tabitha walked over and wrapped her arms around me, the warmth of her touch calming me. I know, but I have you. Everything will be fine. I promise, she said, her voice soothing, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. But even then, I couldn't shake the tension in her words. I put my hand on her waist, feeling the firmness from her daily gym routine. I smiled, but I wasn't fully at ease. Okay, but you promise me if anything feels off, you tell me right away, okay? I promise, Tabitha said, then gently kissed my lips. I love you. I love you too. 6 months went by. I didn't think writing a book about philosophy would take so much time and effort. Tabitha was working hard, but some days she would come home feeling stressed and frustrated. She'd vent about how Heinrich was controlling everything, sometimes making her rewrite parts she felt were crucial to the book's direction. I always tried to listen, comfort her, and support her through those tough times. As the writing process neared completion, the atmosphere lightened up, and I was happy we'd finally have more time together. But then, everything changed in a flash. We were having lunch with some friends at a fancy little restaurant. The restrooms were at the other end of the building, so I excused myself and headed that way. After taking care of business, I stepped out and there he was, standing right in front of me, smiling like he'd been waiting for me. My heart sank when I realized it was Heinrich Dundas, and he was in Virginia. He was a bit shorter than me, maybe 50, balding with a little bit of thinning hair on the sides, some salt and pepper that wasn't too noticeable. His beard was meticulously trimmed, but looked a little unkempt, and the expensive suit couldn't hide a sly, cunning gleam in his eyes. I went to head back to my table, but he blocked my path and held out a large, yellow envelope. I stared at him, confused and completely caught off guard. We'd never exchanged a word before, so seeing him there, in front of me, felt like a punch to the gut, and in a moment I understood why he was there. He looked at me, a sinister smile spreading across his face. I'm going to tell you what I told Christian years ago. Tabitha's mine. You think you have her, but I own her. I felt my blood start to boil, but I held back. I knew he wanted to get under my skin, to make me lose control. I took the envelope and held it up. What's this? Open it, he said, his smirk full of arrogance. It'll tell you everything you need to know about Tabitha and me. We've been meeting in person for a while now. I opened the envelope. Inside was a big 10x8 photograph. It was my wife, Tabitha, in his arms in bed. Heinrich was looking directly at the camera, a smug grin on his face, while Tabitha was bent over, her face turned towards him, her eyes full of desire. You son of a bitch, I gritted out, filled with rage. He just chuckled. I think you wouldn't want to make a big scene here, especially when I have a whole bunch of our emails and messages. You want to have everyone know you're a pathetic cuckold? He said with a mocking laugh. Face it, you're out of your league. Ever been punched in the nose? It hurts instantly, and it bleeds. I punched him, and he went down like a bag of garbage. For a moment, I wanted to kick him a few more times, but then I stopped myself. I wasn't about to become a criminal over this jerk. I stuffed the picture back into the envelope and looked down at him lying on the floor, pathetic and miserable. Stay away from me, do you hear? Come near me again, and that bloody nose will be the least of your worries, I growled. He could only nod, fear etched on his face. I went back to the table, but from that moment my insides were ice cold. Tabitha saw my face and knew something was wrong. She stood up, walked over to me, her face full of worry. "Everything okay?" Tabitha asked, but I just stared at her, unable to believe what I had just seen. The woman I loved had betrayed me. Again. "No, grab your stuff, let's go," I said, my voice betraying my anger. Tabitha looked scared but quickly grabbed her purse, mumbled a quick goodbye to everyone, and followed me to the car. As we drove away, she kept asking Noble, "What's going on?" I didn't answer. I just opened the car door, started it, and drove straight home. The whole way, Tabitha was full of worry and confusion, looking at me, searching for an explanation. When we got home, I slammed the car door shut and turned to face her. "Heinrich freaking Dundas?" I said, looking at her with a mix of sadness and anger. "Heinrich?" Tabitha was surprised, her eyes wide. "Yeah, him. The jerk you've been sleeping with." My cold words left her stunned. "Noble, it's not like that," she shook her head, but I threw the envelope into her hands. She looked at it, hesitated to open it, and when she saw the picture, her face went white. She started trembling, tears streaming down her face, then tossed the picture onto the back seat. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen." "How long?" I asked, my voice low, trying to stay as calm as I could. "What?" She tried to avoid it. "How long?" I gritted my teeth, staring at her. "How many times have you been with him?" "Noble, please, you have to understand." "I don't want excuses, Tabitha. I want the truth. You know who he is, I warned you. You promised me it wouldn't happen. And now what? You're no different than a liar and a coward, you know that," I said, struggling to keep my voice from raising, then walked away from the car and straight into the house. It took almost 10 minutes before Tabitha walked in, looking defeated and miserable. She looked at me packing my things, her hands fumbling, not knowing what to do. My mind was racing, thinking about Jacqui and the other kids. I couldn't understand how she could be so heartless to throw everything away like this. "Please don't go, please, give me a chance to make things right," Tabitha pleaded, almost whimpering, her voice cracking with tears. "I know I messed up. I'm a terrible person, I looked up, trying to stay calm. "Tabitha, if you love me, stay quiet and let me go. I need some time to think." "Where are you going?" Tabitha asked, trying to sound calm. "You're not going to go after Heinrich and try to hurt him, are you? Don't hurt him." Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. I turned back to Tabitha, my eyes filled with disappointment. "You're not serious. You're worried about him more than you are about me. What in the world are you thinking, Tabitha?" I zipped up my suitcase and dragged it out of the room, trying to contain the fire burning inside me. I needed to grab a few things from my office before I left. "It's my fault, I let him mess everything up. But you shouldn't fight him. He's not worth going to jail for," Tabitha said, following me into the office as I grabbed my laptop, charger, and a few miscellaneous things to stuff into my backpack. "I know he's not worth it. But the funny thing is, he thinks he owns you. He does own you, doesn't he? He sees you like some kind of vintage collectible he bought years ago," I said, leaving the office, backpack in hand, heading straight for the living room. "Tell me, what does he have that I don't? His receding hairline? That beer belly? What is it?" Tabitha shook her head frantically, crying, "Nothing, I don't know." I couldn't control myself. I gave a dry laugh, anger bubbling over. "You could have walked away instead of hopping into bed with him, but no. You had to be the independent woman, prove you could do anything. And in the end, you just turned out to be weak, out of control. Do you know what this does to Jacqui, Danny, and me? Or are you just thinking about yourself?" "I'm not," Tabitha shouted, tears streaming down her face. "It just happened." "Happened? What does that mean? When the first time you two got it on, or when you took that pathetic photo?" I asked, the image of the sickening picture in the envelope flashing in my mind. "Those were private moments between us. How could he betray me like this?" Tabitha cried, nearly hysterical, as if she couldn't grasp the harsh reality in front of her. I wondered if she truly understood the depth of it all, or if she had completely lost her mind. "You're pathetic. You think I can forget all of this? You think we can just move on from this? You betrayed me in an unforgivable way with that Heinrich creep," I said, my voice low and cold, as if all the affection between us had completely crumbled. "Please, please don't leave me," Tabitha sobbed, clinging to me like a lost soul. "Go home to your parents and tell them about this. I'll call you in a few days," I replied, devoid of emotion. I grabbed my things and headed out the door, into the car. As I got in, I glanced in the back seat. The horrible picture was still there, a living testament to the betrayal. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Talk about a cruel joke from life. I reversed out of the driveway, briefly looking at the house I had once loved, where we had lived, where we had built a family. Damn it. I called Ethelbert, my ex-wife, letting her know I was going to be out of town for a few days and would get back to her before I went to see Danny. She understood, but she also sensed something was wrong. Ethelbert was always perceptive, and it seemed like she could tell something was off just from the tone of my voice. 2 days at the lakeside house passed in a silent chaos. On the surface, everything was peaceful. The lake was calm. The sound of birds occasionally echoed. The atmosphere was absolutely tranquil. But inside, I was a mess, a jumbled mess of thoughts and emotions I couldn't escape. I had taken a leave of absence from work, so I didn't have to worry about that. My boss, Marianne Summerson, was an incredibly understanding woman. She had left the door wide open for me, if I needed to talk or just needed someone to listen. Marianne was stern when she needed to be, but also incredibly fair and kind. That kind of empathy, I think, is rare in a boss. That afternoon, I sat alone in the living room, gathering information to send to my lawyer, Maurice Granger. As I opened my browser, I accidentally logged straight into Tabitha's social media account. Though I rarely use social media, this time I was compelled to check her messages. It's where she confided in her friends. And this time, it was like reading a suspense novel full of twists and turns, seeing the messages between her and Heinrich. Sure, they were work-related messages at first, but then a month in, I noticed how he started getting personal, even dropping a few suggestive comments. A few weeks later, Tabitha started responding. Reading those messages, I saw how their relationship had begun much earlier than she had admitted. It was all there, laid out, bare and unhidden, messages from the past few months. Some of them were like sharp blades cutting deep into my heart. Heinrich, he's an idiot, thinks he's a real man, but he's nothing. You know I'm better than him. Tabitha, don't call him that. He's not like that. What you and I have is different. Heinrich, keep telling yourself that, but you and I both know he's just a little guy. Tabitha, he's bigger than you, and if this continues we won't have anything left. I tried to read everything, copying it all into a document to attach to Maurice. Reading through each message, I realized the full extent of the betrayal. They had met more than once, had been on more dates than just that one picture he had shown me. Tabitha only admitted to what was proven, denying everything else. But these messages clearly showed they were much closer than she had let on. I had to wonder if she even wanted to get caught, as if she wasn't even trying to hide anything. I was about to close the browser, but a final conversation popped up, an exchange between them right before Heinrich showed up with the picture that day. Tabitha, I'll hurt myself if he finds out. Heinrich, if I can't have you, no one can. Who cares if he finds out? You belong to me. Tabitha, no, I don't belong to anyone. We need to stop this. This isn't good for me. The book is finished, and so are we. I sat frozen, each word hammering at me. It turned out Tabitha was the one who had initiated the break with Heinrich. And he, that bastard, couldn't stand her leaving him, so he decided to destroy everything she had. Now I understood why he had shown up that day, at the restaurant, trying to push me to my breaking point. I hit send on the email to Maurice, then slumped back into the chair, a hollow feeling washing over me. But just as I closed my eyes, I heard a noise from the front door. I stood up and went out to check, and instantly, all my weariness seemed to melt away. It was Milka, my daughter. I had forgotten she had a key to the house, the lakeside house too. Hey Dad, Milka greeted me with a sweet, sincere voice, that gentle smile of hers appearing like an instant cure for my pain. I knew why she was there, and in her eyes, I could see her trying to be strong, to hide her worries to put me at ease. Pumpkin, how are things? I asked, trying to keep my voice light, as natural as possible. Good, I think, Milka replied, trying to smile, but I could feel the weight in her reply. Everyone misses you, especially Danny, she added, and instantly, a pang of guilt hit me. Yeah, I know, I said softly, avoiding her gaze. Things are still kind of a mess right now. Milka nodded, then stepped closer as if to comfort me. I know. Tabitha told me. That's why I'm here. Her voice was both soft and firm, as if she'd been thinking about this for a long time. I wondered to myself why Tabitha would tell her everything, when Milka answered as if reading my thoughts. She wants everyone to be with you. She knows she can't change what she did. but she hopes one day you'll find peace. Did she tell you everything? I asked, plopping down on the couch, feeling like my legs couldn't hold me anymore. I think so, she lied to you, didn't she? Milka replied, sitting down next to me, her eyes filled with empathy. More than once, I sighed. Seeing the frown on her face, I knew Milka was feeling my pain as if it was her own. Still with that guy? She asked. Yeah. I nodded, closing my eyes, letting out a long sigh. Milka gently wrapped her arms around me, placing a kiss on my cheek like a true companion. It'll be okay, Dad. We all love you and want you home, she whispered, and in that moment, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears just started flowing, no hiding, no concern for self-preservation. For days I had bottled it all up, and now, in front of my daughter, I finally let it all out. Milka didn't seem fazed, she just sat there, holding me close. There was a moment when I had to run to the bathroom and throw up, all the agony in me just spilling out uncontrollably. She stayed right there, patting my back, offering me solace. In that moment, I felt both ashamed and proud. Milka looked at me, her eyes held no judgment, just a compassionate and loving smile, enough to warm my aching soul. Thank you, I said softly, taking her hand, then stood up, walking into the bathroom to regain my composure. The cold water gradually soothed the pain, helping me relax. For the first time since everything exploded, my mind was clearer, no longer clouded by anger and hurt. When I returned to the living room, Milka was still sitting there on the couch, watching me, waiting. So, what are you going to do next? She asked, her voice both worried and firm. I contacted my lawyer, sent them all the paperwork. I've also gathered all the evidence and instructions for them to start the divorce proceedings as soon as possible. I sighed. Each word felt like a cut into this harsh reality. Milka nodded, her face seeming to relax a little. That's good, Dad, she said, offering a small smile. What happens after that? That was a good question. I sat back down on the couch, facing the question I hadn't figured out the answer to myself. I don't know. Back to work next week, back to the daily grind, I guess. I said, keeping my voice as calm as I could, as if I was just summarizing a simple plan. Come home, Dad, stay with us, it'll be better for you, Milka replied, her eyes focused, hopeful, almost pleading. Of all my kids, she was the one who was most affected by the divorce between Ethel and me. Danny was sad, Jacob too, but Milka was always the one trying to mend things, the main catalyst for us getting along better. She never gave up on the hope of seeing her parents close together. Vic, I'm not sure, and your mom, she wouldn't be happy about that, I said, but she wouldn't let me finish. She'll understand. We all want you back, please, Milka said, her eyes shining with tears welling up. She wasn't just thinking about herself. I truly believed she wanted me back, wanted someone to watch over her, and be there for her. Where would I even sleep? The couch? Long term, that's not going to work. I tried to reason with her. No, you can sleep in my room. I'll sleep with Mom, Milka said, her eyes firm, as if she already had a plan. She'd thought everything through. Milka. Dad, please? I need you back with us, Milka pleaded, then gently sat on my lap, like when she was a little kid. The gesture brought back so many good memories, the days when our family was complete. I gently stroked her hair, taking in the familiar scent, and gave her a soft kiss on her forehead. Milka nestled into me, as if wanting to keep me there forever, not letting me escape. Thinking about how alone I had felt these past few days, I began to wonder if maybe coming back to live with the kids was the best thing to do right now. After all, maybe this wasn't such a hard decision as I had thought. Okay, pumpkin. Okay, I said, letting out a sigh. Milka looked up, her big brown eyes shining with joy, filling with excitement. She had her mother's warm brown eyes. Thank you, Dad, she whispered, kissing my cheek again, then wrapping her arms tightly around my neck. After getting everything sorted, I gathered my things and followed Milka in the car back to Ethelbert's place. There was still so much to deal with and sort out, but looking at her warm eyes in the rearview mirror, I knew I was embarking on a new journey, a journey back to life, back to the people I loved. As I stepped out of the car, Danny, my always energetic son, ran towards me, wrapping his arms around me in a tight hug. Danny's enthusiasm and affection was a powerful wave that washed away all the Tabitha-related troubles from my mind. Though shorter than me by a head, he was always radiant when I was near, and nothing could compare to Danny's bright smile and infectious laughter. His small arms were wrapped around my waist, pulling me into Ethelbert's house as Milka followed behind with my bag in hand. Jacob was probably out with friends or working a shift, so I'd see him later. I must say, it felt amazing to be home. But then I saw Ethelbert waiting by the door, and I froze. She smiled, a smile tinged with worry, but still, it was a familiar smile, a warm smile. Ethelbert always dressed elegantly, softly, usually a dress or a dress with a polo for those at-home days. Her slender figure, long slender legs, toned waist and graceful curves, it all made her a beauty icon in my eyes. Today's dress was loose-fitting, but it still hugged her waist, highlighting her gentle yet captivating charm. "Hi, Ethel," I said softly, unable to stop the smile from spreading across my face. Ethelbert came closer, extending her arms to embrace me. In her embrace there was something warm and familiar, a feeling of peace that I thought I'd never experience again. Danny was still standing nearby, happily watching us. "Hi, Noble," Ethelbert said, her voice sweet, melting away any hesitation in my heart. Not everyone could say that being hugged by their ex-wife was a good thing, but right now it actually comforted me more than words ever could. As she stepped back, Ethelbert pursed her lips like she was hiding some emotion, but quickly regained her usual confident composure. "Milka's room is yours. You know the way, and I'm grilling meat," she said, her voice natural, as if today was just another ordinary day for the Pounder family. "Thanks, Ethel. I'm just staying for a day or two, until I find a place." "I don't want to inconvenience anyone," I said, but instantly saw disapproving glances from both Milka and Danny, while Ethelbert smiled, nodding slightly. "Okay, stay as long as you need," she said, with a touch of warmth in her voice. I could see she wanted to say more, but then she stopped. I could still read her mind, even after all these years. We had always gotten along, even though we were divorced, we still worked together for the kids. It had been a long time since we talked about our divorce. No one wanted to stir up old wounds, and maybe partly because there were still things left unsaid. That night, I settled in, spending the evening with the family, reminiscing, enjoying the warmth that I hadn't felt in a long time. Danny was practically glued to me until bedtime. I had missed him terribly. Danny wasn't just my son, he was my best friend, the one I had shared everything with. In a way, I needed Danny more than he needed me, but right now I just wanted to savor the moment without thinking too much. It was a strange, painful feeling, returning to the old house. Tabitha was gone, and I was trying to take steps to restore normalcy in my life. My first day back at work, all I wanted was to maintain focus. But then 2 consecutive emails arrived, each one like sprinkling salt on the wounds I was trying to forget. The first email was from Heinrich, that bastard, and the entire content was meant to belittle me. He boasted about how great he was, said I should give up trying to act like a real man. He seemed to think he had the right to define what it meant to be a man and lecture me on how to be a human being. He also mentioned that he was staying in Norfolk and that it wouldn't be hard to get back to Tabitha, attaching another picture of the 2 of them together. The anger inside me simmered. But then I felt completely helpless, only because the law prevented me from retaliating in a clear, direct way. But it was the second email that really threw me for a loop. It was from Tabitha. "My dearest Noble, no words can express how deeply I regret the hurt I've caused. I was swept up in his lies and was blinded by him. Heinrich said he was divorced, that his ex-wife had betrayed him, and I felt sorry for him. He was like a heartbroken version of you from before. I know I shouldn't have done this, but I did, and I will forever regret it. Just know, he and I are through. Please remember that Jacqueline needs you, and I would hate myself for causing a rift between you 2. You're the best dad she could hope for, and she'll need you now. I won't contest the divorce, and you can even keep the house, for Jacque. I'm so sorry and deeply ashamed. I know this doesn't make it any better, but please know I love you, and I always will. Tabitha." Reading that, the anger inside me only flared up. I didn't understand. Part of me wanted to explode, but her apology left me confused. She wouldn't fight the divorce, meaning it could all be over easily, and Jacque could stay close to me. That strange feeling lingered in me all day. Tabitha had been served the divorce papers, and she had moved back in with her parents, Ray and Carla. I knew they were heartbroken for Tabitha. Ray came to see me and shared that he couldn't believe Tabitha had gotten involved with Heinrich again, after all he had done in the past. Tabitha's family pledged to help her get therapy and wanted to make sure Jacqueline didn't feel abandoned. She might not remember much about her biological father, but she would definitely have questions, and we'd have to do everything to answer them. A week after Tabitha's email, I went to visit Ethelbert and the kids. We had a lovely evening, but then a call from the hospital shattered the peace. Tabitha had been in a car accident, and they urgently needed me to come right away. Emotions surged through me, not just worry, but a tremendous sense of guilt. Despite all the hurt she had caused, a part of me didn't want to lose her. My mind was a blur on the drive to the hospital. I drove like a madman, only realizing when I got there that Ethelbert had come with me, her hand tightly gripping mine as we arrived at the emergency room. We held Tabitha's hand as she lay there weak, and then, like a fog, Tabitha drifted away, leaving this world. Ethelbert held me close as the doctor signaled for us to leave the room. Tabitha's parents, Ray and Carla, hadn't made it to the hospital. They were left with only pain and endless regret. Everything became a whirlwind of emotions, but somehow we managed to pull ourselves together. Later, the police told us that Tabitha hadn't been alone. Heinrich Dundas had been in the car, driving. He had slammed the car straight into the seawall, hitting a large tree. He died at the scene, and Tabitha was transported to the hospital, but her injuries were too severe to survive. Back home, I was still in shock. It was Ethelbert and Milka who helped me stabilize and helped me with the funeral arrangements with Tabitha's family. Then, in a bitter moment of clarity, I realized that bastard had killed Tabitha. He had done it because he couldn't handle her leaving him. Now he was dead, and he would never have to answer for what he had done. But we, the ones left behind, would have to live with the consequences of his selfish actions. Jacqueline was with me the whole time, with Ray and Carla helping out whenever they could. Although losing her mother had a huge impact on Jacqueline, I made sure to keep her in therapy to help her cope. 3 months passed since Tabitha's death, and Jacqueline surprised me with her mental strength. As for me, I had been trying to find answers for why Tabitha had made such a drastic decision. But therapy had triggered an uncontrollable rage within me. I began to realize that Heinrich, that man, was just a manipulator, always willing to do whatever it took to get what he wanted. It wasn't until a recent therapy session that I truly realized what had been eating away at me all this time. It wasn't just Tabitha's betrayal, but also the lingering impact of my divorce with Ethelbert, the guilt for everything ending so quickly and bitterly. Ultimately, it was Ethelbert who bore the brunt of the mistakes in that relationship, facing all the consequences. But deep down, I realized I had never stopped loving Ethelbert. Perhaps Tabitha had sensed this, and it became the catalyst for her fling with Heinrich, a surrender to emotion that I couldn't stop. In the correspondence I found with Heinrich, Tabitha admitted that she loved him, a love that had persisted since they were young. But at that time, Tabitha still loved me, and I think it was no different than how I felt about Ethelbert, a wound that had never healed. Heinrich took advantage of that feeling, making Tabitha weak and eventually giving in. Understanding these things, I enlisted Milka and Jacob's help to watch Jacqui for a night. I had a special plan at dinner at my place just for Ethelbert and me to finally put all the animosity to rest. For the past 3 months, Ethelbert had been nothing but supportive, showering Jacqui with affection as if she were her own. In that time, I had realized I still enjoyed spending time with Ethelbert, just like how we used to feel when we were still a whole family. That's why I realized I needed to fix the mistakes of the past, even if some might say I didn't have to. But that's who I am. I need things to be right, or at least as close as possible. Dinner went smoothly. Ethelbert was open and chatty, still as gentle as she'd always been, making me nostalgic for the time when things were good between us. I was captivated by everything she said, but deep down, I knew the conversation was going to shift. And as dinner ended, we sat down in the living room. The anxiety inside me was building, becoming unbearable, but I knew this was a moment I couldn't avoid any longer. Looking at Ethelbert, I sensed that she was prepared for this too. "I want to thank you for coming over tonight," I started, trying to remain calm as I took a deep breath. I could see the tension rising on her face, just like the last time we talked about the divorce. Maybe Ethelbert thought I was going to ask her to stay away forever, to cut off all contact. As you know, I've been in therapy and I want to clear some things up between us. A mixture of curiosity and a touch of surprise flickered in her eyes. "What's that about?" Ethelbert asked softly, her eyes gentle but filled with questions. "It's about us, about the divorce, about everything that happened." I sighed, trying to gather my jumbled thoughts. Everything with Tabitha, it forced me to confront everything that happened between us. And I realized just how badly I messed up. Before I could continue, she interrupted, seemingly unable to contain herself any longer. "You didn't do anything wrong. It was me, Ethelbert blurted out, but I gently took her hand, trying to get her to calm down and focus on me. Ethel, it's okay. Truly, I just want to apologize, I replied, my voice so genuine that her eyes widened in surprise. Apologize for what? Ethelbert asked, her voice laced with a mixture of astonishment and confusion. You didn't do anything wrong. I was the one who made the mistakes. She seemed to be getting flustered, but I tightened my grip on her hand a bit more. At least she didn't pull away. I could feel both anger and hurt in her, and it bothered me. I didn't want to see Ethelbert in pain like that anymore, not now, when I finally understood things and knew what my heart truly wanted. You didn't deserve what I put you through. We divorced amicably, we co-parented. But my voice caught as tears rolled down my cheeks. It was embarrassing, letting emotions spill out like that, but I couldn't help it. I went straight to you, confessed everything that had happened. I felt so terrible I couldn't keep it a secret. But Tabitha didn't. She lied to you. She had no intention of telling the truth. Time has helped you see things differently. Ethelbert nodded, her eyes taking on a deep intensity. You did, and because of that, I saw clearly what I really wanted in life, she said, her voice full of sincerity. I'm sorry, Ethel. I'm truly so sorry. I know I overreacted that day, I said, but she gently placed her finger on my lips to stop me. It's okay. I deserve that. I messed everything up, and since then I've been trying to make it up to you, Ethelbert replied, offering a slight smile, a sad smile I would never forget. No, Ethel, it wasn't your fault, I continued, my voice cracking. We should have talked more. We should have gone to counseling together. You shouldn't have left me like that. The words made me stop. I looked at her, seeing her lips tremble even as she tried to smile, holding back her emotions. It was just one night, a moment of weakness with a colleague when you were drunk, and your whole world came crashing down afterwards. It was all my fault. No, it wasn't. We both made mistakes, but that's the past. I said it then, and I'll say it again. I'll do whatever it takes to right my wrongs, Ethelbert replied, her voice strong, but gentle. I never stopped loving you. Hearing that, I paused, looking deep into her eyes. Is that why you never went looking for anyone else? I asked, and she softly nodded. How could I look for anyone else when I already had the best? Ethelbert replied, and my heart clenched. Her words stabbed me with pain. I had gone looking for Tabitha, believing it was the best thing to do, and now all I felt was an immeasurable amount of shame. Ethel, I stammered, but she gently shook her head, leaned in, and pressed her lips against mine. The kiss tasted salty with tears, but I didn't know if they were mine or hers. It was a gentle yet powerful kiss, full of love and hope that had been forgotten for far too long. After that kiss, she looked into my eyes, gently tracing my face as if wanting to memorize every line. Then Ethelbert pulled me close, holding me tight as if she didn't want to let go. We held each other in silence, letting the pain, the regret, and forgiveness all merge into the space between us. The next morning when I woke up, for the first time in a long time, I could honestly say that I felt truly refreshed. No, Ethel and I didn't sleep together last night, and she didn't stay the night. But we had promised each other we'd be there for each other, no matter what. There was a sense of relief inside me, as if I finally saw a glimmer of light at the end of that dark tunnel. But I knew there was still a long road ahead. I understood that it would take time to heal from the wounds Tabitha and Heinrich had inflicted. The painful memories were still there, but at least now I felt like I had a solid foundation to move forward. I had found a little balance in my life and felt confident that I would get through it. A full year had passed since I got back to a semblance of normalcy. During that time, I spent almost all my free time with Ethel and the kids, whether at my place or hers. We cooked meals together, ate together, and spent weekends having fun, working, talking, and sometimes just being lazy together. Milka's 21st birthday was a real blowout. The whole family partied all night. It was also the first time since the divorce that I woke up next to Ethel, both of us having fallen asleep on the couch. Things between Ethel and me were changing in a positive way. I could see it in her eyes when she looked at me, sometimes filled with affection, and I couldn't help but return that gaze. The kids were noticing it too, and they started making plans to help, all of them beaming with the idea. Even Danny, who rarely expressed his emotions, seemed excited. It gave me the feeling that things were headed in the right direction. That night, when I went to Ethelbert's place with Jacques, the kids were already there, all with knowing smiles. Clearly, Milka was the mastermind. Even though she was a grown woman, in that moment she was still my little girl, full of energy and impulsiveness. Looking at them, I guessed something unexpected was waiting. "Okay, looks like some of you have a plan here," I said, looking at Danny hoping he'd spill the beans. "Come on, Danny, spill it." Danny just smiled and shrugged. "Dad, I can't. Milka said she'd kill me if I told." I turned to Milka, who was grinning mischievously. "All right, Milka Caramel Ethelbert Pounder, what's the plan?" Ethelbert asked, her voice a bit stern, but still laced with gentleness. Milka just giggled. "Don't worry, Mom, nothing too crazy. We can see that you and Dad are getting along really well, and we thought, why not give you two a weekend getaway to the lakeside house? Just the two of you." Ethelbert looked surprised, even a little flustered. "Just you and me together? Just us two?" she stammered. I quickly jumped in. "I think that's an amazing idea. What do you think, Ethel? A day off, relaxing by the lake, soaking up the sun and swimming. How does that sound?" Ethelbert looked surprised, staring at me intently. I couldn't help but feel excited after everything we'd been through. My feelings for Ethel had only grown stronger, and the prospect of being with her, seeing her in a swimsuit, I couldn't deny it. "You're serious?" Ethelbert asked, sounding tentative. "Why not? It'll be fun, right guys?" I turned to the kids, grinning and nodding, noticing they were all in agreement. "Yeah, Dad, you should relax and have fun," Jacqueline said, stepping beside me. The whole family erupted in laughter, and in their eyes I saw the hope that this trip could be a new beginning. I turned to Ethelbert, who still seemed a little hesitant. "Ethel, what do you think?" I asked gently, hoping to put her at ease. Ethelbert looked at me, a little unsure before nodding. "Yeah, I guess, why not?" She was reluctant, but then offered a slight smile. As she headed towards the bedroom to pack, I saw Milka wink at me, and I laughed. It was a moment of exhilarating excitement, and I knew I was ready for this trip. 3 hours later, we arrived at the lakeside house. The peaceful scenery and fresh air made the trip feel special, like an adventure we were starting again from scratch. On the drive, we held hands, chatted comfortably, and enjoyed the companionship I had missed for so long. As we walked into the house, I pulled back the curtains, revealing the shimmering blue lake sparkling under the sun. Ethelbert came beside me, setting her bag down, and sighed contentedly. "I always loved this place," she said, gazing out at the lake. "Me too," I replied, reaching for her hand. Ethelbert looked up, her eyes gleaming with the warmth I had always missed. She gently kissed my hand, and it was so tender, it made me melt. Ethel started towards the bedroom, but I couldn't resist. I followed her, wrapped my arms around her, and pulled her in for a kiss. There was something so powerful between us. Maybe it was the peaceful space, the feeling of freedom, or maybe it was just all the pent-up feelings from over the years. I kissed Ethel, and she responded, lost in the moment as if nothing else mattered. We didn't say a word, just looked at each other, letting everything flow. It had been so long since I'd been intimate with Ethelbert, and right now this moment was all I needed. I could feel every bit of that connection between us, a closeness that didn't require any words. After a while we paused, breathless yet content. Ethelbert rested her head on my shoulder, whispering, "Oh, I've been waiting for this for so long. I've missed you so much." I gently stroked her cheek, a smile flashing across my face. "Me too," I said, still riding the high from that moment. "Does this mean we're going to give this another try? You and me?" Ethelbert asked, her eyes soft yet laced with anxiety. Looking into her eyes, I could feel that yearning. "I want to, if you do," I replied, and I saw her eyes light up with happiness. Ethelbert brushed away a stray tear, then sat down beside me so we could talk. "I really want to start over with you," Ethelbert said, her voice brimming with hope. "As long as we're always honest, no matter how difficult it might be." "I agree," I nodded. "No more secrets, just open, honest communication." Ethelbert smiled, nodding, but then paused, took a deep breath as if summoning her courage. "So, if we're going to be honest with each other, I need to be honest with you about something." As Ethel started to speak, a sense of foreboding crept into my mind. Stories like this usually don't have good news, and she was looking more tense than ever. I tried not to overthink and listened as Ethel finally decided to open up. "Okay, go on," I encouraged, trying to stay calm. "I'm not dating anyone else, if that's what you're thinking. I haven't seen anyone since we split. There's only one man I need, And that's you, Ethelbert said, her voice serious. I could clearly see she wasn't bringing up the past to taunt me, so I just nodded, relieved that this wasn't what she was worried about. Okay. I know this might change how you see me, and might make you think twice about being with me, but I have to be honest. For a while now, I've been posting pictures of myself online to make some extra income. I'm doing pretty well, but if you're not comfortable with it, I'll stop right away. Honestly, this was a complete surprise. In a brief moment, my mind raced, imagining what she had been doing. I looked at Ethelbert and took a moment to process the information. Surprise mixed with a strange thrill, as thoughts of her seductive photos flitted through my mind. The most surprising thing was that I wasn't uncomfortable. In fact, I was even intrigued by this new side of her, but I quickly pulled myself back to the present. Ethelbert was waiting for my reaction. Oh, okay, I didn't expect that. Do the kids know? I asked, trying to stay calm. Ethelbert nodded. Jacob and Danny don't. I didn't want to scare them, but Vic is very supportive. The idea came to me when I overheard her talking with a few friends. I tried it, and the extra income really helps, especially with Danny. Actually, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I remembered a detail. So that's why you got the breast implants. Ethelbert grinned proudly, then blushed a little. Yep, that alone doubled my monthly income. You know, if you needed money, why didn't you tell me? I asked, trying to be gentle. Noble, it started as a little challenge, just wanted to make some extra spending money. But then I realized I liked it, the feeling of freedom of expressing myself. Now I'm making $6,000 a month, pretty good for an old lady like me, right? Ethelbert chuckled, while I could only look at her with admiration. She wasn't old at all. To me, she was always the perfect image. I don't show my face, just torso shots. But if you want me to stop, I will, Ethelbert said, her eyes glancing at me with a bit of worry. Wow, really? That's unbelievable, I said, feeling my excitement building. This bold, seductive side of Ethel was both surprising and impossible to look away from. Then, without thinking much, I blurted out, how much more can you make? How much are other people making from this? I almost felt like it was a business opportunity and started getting more interested. Ethelbert laughed, a little amused to see me getting curious. She continued, her voice soft but firm. There are girls who make hundreds of thousands a month. If I showed my face, posted nude photos, or even got more suggestive, I could easily make 5 figures. But that would also mean someone would recognize me, and I'm not sure if the accounting firm would be okay with it. Do you want to take it further? I asked, a little curious before I realized what I was saying. Only if I want to. I won't do this without your support. And if we decide to do it together, it'll be just the two of us. Ethelbert looked at me with determination. So you wouldn't do it with other people? I asked. She looked at me with surprise, then burst into laughter. You're serious? I mean, I don't know. Maybe if it's just for posing. But never with anyone else if that's what you're worried about. What about you? Are you really okay with this? Does this matter to you? I asked, feeling the sincerity in her words. It matters as much as you do, Ethelbert replied softly. But if we work on this together, if it becomes profitable, and we can retire early, maybe we can enjoy life the way we want. If not, I'm happy with my current job as long as I have you. I don't want to lose you again. I nodded, trying to gather myself. Okay, Ethel, we can think about it more. This weekend is ours. Let's go outside and enjoy ourselves, okay? I smiled. She took my hand, a radiant smile lighting up her face. We both headed towards the bedroom to change. I admit, as I saw her figure ahead of me, the thought of being the one taking those seductive photos popped into my head. It sounded crazy, but somehow I knew I had my answer. As Ethel paused, I pulled her close, our eyes met. I couldn't wait until the end of the weekend to say this. Ethel? Mem? Ethelbert whispered, her eyes sparkling with a mix of joy and anticipation. My heart pounded. Being this close to her was something I had missed for so long. If I got a new camera and took pictures of you, could we retire early and live happily ever after? I asked. Her eyes lit up, tears welled up, but a radiant smile spread across her lips. Are you serious? Ethelbert asked, her voice catching. Yeah, I'm in. I can't imagine my life without you. I want us to build a future, do something meaningful together. I don't want to lose you again. Ethelbert looked at me, her eyes warm with trust. You won't regret this, I promise. She kissed me, then stepped back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Come on, let's get dressed and head outside. There's so much waiting for us." She was right. So, where did this all lead me? You see, Heinrich Dundas, that arrogant, scheming jerk, ended up dead. And honestly, it was a good thing. The world didn't need another guy who thought he was above everyone else, especially not a guy like him. Sadly, Tabitha was gone because of him, but her death also marked the end of that painful chapter in my life and opened a new beginning. Thanks to the love and support of my family, I made it through it all. I'm 51 now, Ethelbert is too, but she doesn't look a day over 40, and she insists I don't either. Whatever, we both stay in shape and enjoy life as best as we can. Our kids are happy in their own ways too. Milka married a great guy, both of them are stable and love their jobs. Jacob, well, he's still single and working as a lawyer, a very demanding job, so the dating part will probably have to wait a little longer. Danny, my best friend, is actually the most surprising. He found a lovely lady with Down syndrome, and they're in love. We support Danny as much as we can, but make sure he has his own space. He lives nearby, often comes over for dinner, and chats us up when he's in the mood. Then there's Jacqueline, my youngest, my little angel. She's all grown up now and about to graduate high school. She's turned into an amazing young lady, and Ethel and I couldn't be prouder. She's thinking about becoming a nurse, and we're excited to see what the future holds for her. For those of you curious about us, yes, Ethel and I got remarried. I know you might think I'm crazy, but actually putting the past behind us helped us understand and appreciate each other more. I retired 6 months ago, and Ethel left her job 3 years ago. We've built our online presence, and for a while, our monthly income from that reached 6 figures. Thanks to smart investing, we're living comfortably now and still producing content for our site, averaging around $12,000 a month. Sometimes, we even get recognized on trips and have the chance to make new friends, which both of us find exciting and rewarding. Today, we're enjoying summer at the lakeside house, waiting for a few friends to arrive. Marianne Summerson and her husband, Rob, have become close friends of ours. We also have Mike and Sarah Parrish, friends we met online. We'll spend the day at the lake, sunbathing, swimming, and enjoying each other's company. So yeah, you could say this is a new chapter in my life, a chapter filled with joy and peace. I still remember Tabitha, mostly the good memories, but I also understand that it's time to close that chapter. There were times when I wished Tabitha and Heinrich's ending would have been different, that they would have paid a more fitting price. But whatever happened, I've learned to let go. Like I said, people have a lot of different shades, and it's the same with Ethel and me. We're good together not because we haven't made mistakes, but because we share different shades of the rainbow, both the bright and the dark. After all, we rebuilt everything on a foundation of love, honesty, and maturity. We're still trying to be the best versions of ourselves, day by day, moment by moment. And I know she appreciates that just as much as I do. Yes, Heinrich threw my life into chaos, but those dark days helped me see the most precious thing in my life, a life worth living, and an amazing partner by my side. Thank him? Absolutely not. He doesn't deserve thanks, not even from the depths of hell. But I will forever acknowledge the invisible gift he left behind, a life worth living, lived to the fullest.